Hello and welcome to another episode of Soggy Popcorn, episode 5, I think we're on now. I'm here with Sai.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
So I have to apologise. I've got a bit of hay fever, so if I'm snorting, you'll have to forgive me. So I suppose like the first big film, which I think we've both seen now, is we could talk about is Jurassic World.
Yes.
What did you what did you think?
Well, I talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the most recent podcast. So I gave the lowdown then a little bit. So it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on what you thought. Just to sum up again, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun in parts, some really nice tense scenes, which harked back to the original 1993 Jurassic Park. I really liked some of the sequences. Are really kind of like really cool action. I enjoyed the new dinosaur. What was it called again? The
Ginormous Rex or something like that.
it's like what is the name? Oh, I need to look it up. It's like it's similar to Avatar's Unatamium.
Yeah, it was. It was like the Gigantosaur. I can't remember the.
I want to see it because it's something like the Untamable Saurus or something.
Untamable Saurus.
It is. It's something like that. It's okay. Wait.
Did you see on like my mate put up a thing where it's like basically saying that how we think dinosaurs look like doesn't necessarily mean that's actually how they look like, because all they do is they've got the fossils and then they just stick like some muscles and skin on it and whatever, and just there you go, there's your dinosaur. And so they took that way of thinking and applied it to animals of today, including ourselves. And they're like, this is why dinosaurs are scary. When if you did the same to us, here's what they look like. It was one of those shitty BuzzFeed things. But when I was looking at it, I was like, oh my god, some of these like are fucking horrible. It's something really scary, like some Lovecraft kind of weird shit going on.
So it's a different interpretation of how humans or other animals would look if they were to be genetically modified.
No, like if they found our fossils and didn't actually have a clue what we actually look like,
because they have to fill in the blanks, right?
Yeah, so it's like they wouldn't know that like cats are fluffy, for instance.
Yeah,
and they just put weird leathery skin on them and just make them weird around their skulls or whatever. Any fatty deposits or anything like that. They just presume that like all these animals are just like muscle and skin.
Well, that's basically like the idea behind this, right? Because they do say that in the movie, don't they? I mean, that's been the kind of the idea the whole time, but that's their interpretation of what dinosaurs would look like. So, which is why they designed them to be, bigger, bolder, angrier, spikier than they probably would be, especially for a theme park, And then the new one, the new dinosaur is Indominus Rex, right?
Yeah,
that's a new. So I like the dinosaur. There's so many plot holes and so many things. We get quite spoilerific if we go into it in too much detail about the dinosaur and about the park in general. Like why would you make it like this, and why are there no safety guidelines, and how would that park even get insurance, because surely people die every day in there. But I like what they did with that new dinosaur. I thought it looked pretty cool, and I like the way they made it kind of camouflage, right? That it could change color as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was a good touch. But what did you think about the film as a whole then?
I really liked it. It was I honestly thought going in there was going to be shit. Yeah, sorry, I didn't realize you talked about it. Like, because we've got our WhatsApp.
But I didn't go into too much detail because I was waiting for you to see it.
Yeah. So I forgot what we talked about on there, what we talked about here. But I mean, like I love Chris Pratt anyway. So having him as a bit more, I mean, it was serious, but like he was able to pull that off quite well, I thought. I mean, I suppose he did not Black Hawk Down, Zero Dark 30 and stuff. He's pretty serious in that. Anyway, but I thought Bryce Dallas Howard was good. It was kind of like when people say it was basically the first film again, but bigger. I do kind of see where they're coming from, but
Yeah.
the only thing was like the final, without giving it away, like the final battle kind of thing. I was a little bit like, like
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like the slugfest at the end. I was disappointed in that. I
yeah,
liked everything building up to it, but I didn't like the kind of homage at the end and the surprise and yeah, the final kind of fight. I thought it was just a bit too cliched and too predictable and I mean, you can't. It's hard to level criticism at Jurassic World being unrealistic, but that ending was just pretty unrealistic in terms of what happens in the final kind of like 10 minutes.
yeah.
But you like it like up to that, and then at the end you're just a bit like, oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I thought it spoiled it completely or anything like that. I was just a bit like, yeah. It's not like, but again, there was. I liked the idea that this was the vision that Richard Hammond kind of originally
Yeah,
had, like this whole park where people could, the pterodactyl and the baby rhinoceros, baby triceratops was great, by the way.
yeah, that was great.
Really made me laugh.
Yeah, tried to fly away with it. It was just like, just flapping around.
That was great, that bit. But
Yeah. There's a nice humor in it, right? There are nice little touches of humor which I really liked that I thought it had more of than the original. There were touches of that in the original as well, like little winks and little kind of like comic reliefs. But I like the way like that when yeah the little triceratops, baby triceratops, almost got kidnapped by the pterodactyl, whatever it was, and then also like when there's that birds-esque ambush scene of all the flying dinosaurs coming and swooping down. There's one character who like runs away from a table, then he runs back to get his cocktail and then runs off with it.
yeah,
Yeah, and there's cool touches like that, isn't there? There is quite a decent amount of humor in it, just at the right times, I think. Anyway,
yeah,
but then there's a couple of bits which are a bit silly, like when the kids went after the gyroscope ball kind of sequence when they're rolling around in that ball, and I thought that was awesome when the dinosaur surprised them and that whole scene. But obviously they escape from that scene without spoiling it too much, and then they kind of high five each other, and it's a bit like, really? About 30 seconds ago you were literally shitting your pants thinking you're about to die, and then now you're high fiving. So there were a couple of moments that they were supposed to be kind of funny and kind of cheeky that didn't pay off, but most of the time I thought the laughs were just in the right place.
yeah. It was, yeah. The pace was generally really good. I mean, the only annoying thing, I mean, there was okay. So the one main thing which really annoyed me, and it's not really the film's fault, but is that I felt a lot of what I'd seen was in the trailer.
Yeah, yeah.
Trailer really spoiled it because not only did it make the film look shit, but there was a lot of stuff. So, for instance, well, if you've seen the trailer, which probably everyone has, but you see a helicopter blow up and the dinosaur kind of walk off. So
Yeah.
when that scene was kind of happening, and with who's on the helicopter and all this stuff, I thought, well, they're dead because
Yeah,
I remember from the trailer it crashing and blowing up.
yeah.
And just like, and also like when it's, the blood drips down and the guy gets attacked when she takes out her fucking homing device or whatever. I'm like, waiting for it to happen. And I thought, because I've seen it, like, why did they show
that bit was the aliens bit, right? They're from Aliens, basically. There were a lot of scenes where it just reminded you of, classic action films as well, and that was purely Aliens. But yeah, I think you're right. The trailer, that's hard. If you really paid a lot of attention to that trailer and then watch the film like 10 minutes later, yeah, you'd be able to predict what's about to happen quite a lot, I think, just by judging by some of the spectacular bits that they took out and chucked into the trailer.
Yeah, it was annoying. So because like, when the whole park's in a panic in the trailer, you're like, well, that's gonna happen. So it didn't have the tension I felt like it could have. And the reason why I still think I prefer the first Jurassic Park, is the idea that it's basically like a horror scenario where they're completely isolated. So obviously in Jurassic World, there's loads of them, and you think they've got all this outside help, and they've got, they're trying to get them evacuated, whatever, and all this stuff. But in the first one, it's literally like 5 people or whatever. I mean, it's more, but like just trying to fucking survive. And there was an element
Yeah.
of that to this, but
Yeah.
there was never that real jeopardy of like they could all just fucking completely die on this island and no one would know.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
there wasn't quite the same like what have we done, you know, moment of realization where you're like we pretty much just trapped ourselves here in the most dangerous situation possible, and then now this has happened.
Yeah. But also
there
they're
was,
completely outnumbered. Like in the first film, it's like they're on this fucking huge island with tons of dinosaurs, and there's only a couple of them. Whereas in this, it's like there's a lot of people, and they've got armies and shit like that, which is good, but it's still like, yeah, it didn't have that tension. And also, I thought like with when you see photos of Chris Pratt and the Raptors running along his motorbike, I was thinking, oh man, this is going to make it so shit. But how it was actually played out in the film, where like Chris Pratt's like, they will attack me, like they are completely dangerous, and my control over them is like extremely limited, if anything.
Yeah, I like the way he's the voice of reason. You needed that because they created in what's his name, Vincent whatever, Full Metal Jacket guy.
Oh yeah,
his character is like so two-dimensional. You know, the classic let's weaponize everything military man, and you needed something to kind of balance that out, really, to tone it down with Chris Pratt, you know, like, yeah, like you said, saying I have no control, these guys, these are wild animals, they do what they want, they will kill anything in their way, and they just want to hunt. So that was good. Yeah, I think you needed him to kind of like sober the situation half the time. But I really like that. I like the Velociraptor. I like that relationship they had, and I like the chase, the Velocicam or the Raptor cam they had when he was on the motorbike. That was really cool. It's just what happens immediately after that. I was a bit like, oh, really? You know, it's kind of weird dinosaur to dinosaur communication. And you just think, oh, this is interesting. I don't know if this how this is going to work out. But before that, I liked all that, the way he was. Yeah, I mean, he's basically the animal tamer called into action, isn't he?
Yeah.
People called into action, and yeah, I mean that the other character is kind of irritating. He keeps popping up saying, "I told you," and then when he tries to kind of take over the situation, that's just pretty far fetched. But I think that was inevitable to do the whole like weaponizing these dinosaurs thing, and maybe that's something that might, if they make another one, that could be quite a big plot device. The whole turning these into weapons against other nations and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's that whole thing with like BD Wong, who was the scientist in the first Jurassic Park thing, and he's in this, and then there's that whole like kind of side plot going on, and I'm like, so if he survived the first film, why would he? What is his motivation for doing what he does, knowing what he's been through and what everyone else went through?
Yeah, exactly. And why would they make, like Velociraptors? Why were they even there? For one thing, because they weren't on display, were they? So it's like, are they training these Velociraptors to eventually be in some sort of show for the audience, but at the moment they're still very much grooming them and teaching them how to behave, and training them? Or are they really, without Chris Pratt maybe is just being an idealist and he's naive about it, maybe that's why they're there, to weaponize them in the first place for the military. It's just that he thinks they're there to be nurtured and taught how to behave. But yeah, exactly. Maybe that's because otherwise, why would you make them?
Yeah,
why would you do half of that stuff? Because everyone's just going to die. So it begs the question: why the Velociraptors even there in the first place? What did he expect was going to happen? Is it like, is the other character right? Of course, it was inevitable that they were going to be weaponized anyway. Is that the whole point? Because this guy is there in the original, so he saw what went wrong. So then and then they go and create a monster dinosaur, knowing potentially what could happen if it was to get out, and then giving it so much intelligence and giving it aspects of like chameleon like skills and higher intelligence. Like, why would you even make that if you think that it's just there's a chance it could get out and kill everybody?
Yeah, which you are perfectly aware of and have actually lived through. No, it was weird. I mean, apart from like these, I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of downplaying it, but I actually really, really did enjoy it. There was some really great moments, really great scares. It was you know, it knew when to calm down and bring the action back up. Very like a script with not really any fat on it.
Tight, the script.
Huh?
It's pretty tight, the script.
It was, yeah. There's character arcs for everyone.
Yeah.
It had David Wallace from The Office in.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was yours?
Yeah. For me, the only scene that I felt that could have done with trimming was when the kids find the old Jeep and there's that kind of the old Jurassic Park museum or lobby or whatever it was, and then there's old memorabilia here, so let's you know, give that some attention, and then suddenly remember how we fixed that Jeep, Grandpa's old Jeep? Oh yeah, let's do it to this one. That's fucking stupid. And that scene, I didn't really like that scene because it couldn't compare to like the classic kind of Velociraptor scene in the original when they're hiding and trying to, you know, they're shuffling around the kitchen and whatever it is to try and hide from them. They didn't have that kind of like that dread at all.
No.
That was the only scene I didn't quite like. And then the way the other two characters turned up in the same area and they were like, oh right, they were here 5 minutes ago. Okay, let's go find them. Oh shit, no, the dinosaur's here. We have to deal with this first for a few minutes. That I thought surely they could have come up with something better. Just if they just orchestrated that whole scene just to get that shot of the old banner, the old Jurassic Park poster there, you know, that really brought back old memories from the original film, then I didn't think it was really worth it just for that, to find the old goggles and stuff. But apart from that scene, yeah, I really liked, like you said, the pace of it. Some of the sequences were really, really fun and really kind of like, well, you know, just absolutely spectacular. But I was thinking, like, this film, obviously there are so many like plot holes and so many stupid like behaviors in the film of some of the characters that you just think it's so far-fetched, and you know, running a whole film in high heels, and a lot of the little criticism of some of the choices in the film. Do you think that this is an example of a film that gets the action so right that it really doesn't matter about a lot of those like silly, cheesy other points to it, whereas something like Transformers didn't do the same thing? It can't really captivate in the same way. Did you think that it really, like, it doesn't really matter about some of these stupid plot holes, that as long as the action is that spot on and it is that exciting, then, you know, it warrants it?
I don't think the plot holes were like
big enough.
Yeah, were big enough for that to happen. And because there was actual, like, the thing with Transformers is that it's just so pure action and there's just no depth or little moments or anything like that. But with this, it's like it had the big moments, it had the little moments, and it had, you know, you actually were bothered about the characters and what they were kind of going through. And there was enough context and backstory and everything that you weren't really thinking, you know, it was kind of preoccupying you anyway. So you weren't worried too much about if things didn't make sense. But to be honest, it's yeah, I mean, none of that came through to me at all. I
didn't. Yeah. When I was watching it, it didn't take me out of the moment. Just thinking, oh god, I can't believe that they wouldn't do that in real life, or why are they suddenly making that decision? No, I was swept up with it. It was only really after I was just like, oh yeah, that was stupid, that was stupid, that was stupid. But you know, while I was sitting in the chair in the cinema, it did its job. I was completely like carried away with the whole spectacle of it. That it didn't affect the film for me either.
Yeah, no, I really liked it. I thought it was.
Yeah.
But what would you think between that and Mad Max?
I mean, I think I would rather watch Mad Max again because I prefer Mad Max. I think it's just more original, even though it is, you know, the fourth film in a series. But I think it's just because it's so hectic and so chaotic. It's a very unique film that on that much production and that much kind of those crazy set pieces, that a director can even get that made, especially so many years after the original films were out. And it's just something very different from a lot that's happening at the moment, and the sheer like pace and assault on your senses of it. I would always recommend Mad Max over it for a certain cinema goer anyway. But for somebody like young or wants just, you know, some real summer blockbuster family action, then obviously Jurassic World I think would be better. But personally, I prefer Mad Max.
Yeah.
What about you?
Right. Yeah, Mad Max, definitely. It's just
Yeah,
like, as much as I like Jurassic World and all that, Mad Max is the kind of thing which I could see myself watching repeatedly, whereas Jurassic World I would probably only watch about once, maybe twice again, and that's it. Don't think I'll
yeah,
watch it again.
yeah. I mean, it's like a good rock song compared to a pop song, really. But
Yeah,
you know, it,
yeah, exactly.
they're both pretty good. They both exceeded my expectations. I was pretty content with both of them.
Yeah, I could have shot, Clive Trevor. I don't know how to say his name, Trevorrow or something like that.
No. Yeah,
Uh, I was trying to see if when I was doing this thing for BBC, shooting with directors and stuff,
yeah.
at America Through Film thing, I was trying to see. He was on the list of
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
people to talk to, and basically the BBC were like, "We don't know who he is," and it's like,
Ah,
"Yeah, I know,
really?
but he's doing Jurassic World. It's going to be like,
Yeah.
it's going to be huge, I promise." They were like, "No, well, we don't know who he is." So
Yeah, now, God, now everyone knows who he is.
yeah, and it's just like, why did we not bother? Anyway, whatever.
It's interesting that he's already said he won't do a sequel, which I find quite interesting. He's obviously not in it just purely for building this franchise and making shitloads of money. I mean, he would have made shitloads of money from this one anyway.
Yeah,
But I listened to the podcast with him on recently. He's really cool actually. He's very humble about it all, and he was quite candid about how they shot it and the choices that he made going into it. And a lot of the actors in it are like improv comedians that he apparently sees. He likes a lot of stand-up comedy. He goes to a lot of improv nights in LA, I think. So like some of the I guess the B characters, like the theme park ride operator, the guy who's just like, hey, this isn't my job to deal with this,
yeah,
that kid, like he's apparently a comedian. A lot of them are. And the girl in the control room, who the
yeah. When he
there's
was
that.
like, I recognize the guy actually.
Yeah, the guy's in New Girl, right?
Okay,
He's on TV a lot, that guy. But that was really funny. I like that chemistry between those two is really funny. But she's like an improv actor, so a lot of them are improv comedians. So it's quite cool that he really took the comedy aspect of it quite seriously, even though it's very peppered in every now and then, the comic relief. That was very deliberate, and I think he really went for that. And it's interesting. He's quite open about the different shots. The different kind of like they shot different outcomes of what could have happened. They did different choices. Should there be a kissing scene or not a kissing scene? How the relationship should develop. So it's quite interesting. He seems pretty cool, open guy actually. Quite an interesting director.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be looking forward to seeing whatever he's gonna come
And
out next.
he actually recommends to watch the 2D version over the 3D version, which I was quite surprised
Oh,
to
did he?
hear. Yeah, he
I
says he
really
didn't.
liked it in 3D.
You watched it in 3D?
Yeah, 3D IMAX as well.
Interesting. Yeah, he said that he didn't feel the conversion was as good as it could have been. He just says he loved the 2D print. And yeah, I think some people have said it loses a bit of, ironically, depth with the 3D version. Some of the scenes apparently I've heard look quite fake in 3D. Some of the trees and some of the textures in 3D can apparently just seem a little bit superficial. I don't know. But that's one thing that I've heard a few people criticize, that it was a little bit too much CGI, which I do agree with. I like that the original film, the way there's a lot of like mechanical animals and there's that real kind of realistic kind of feel to it, that those dinosaurs, even though they're robots, actually there. I did feel it was quite CGI heavy actually with the new one, and apparently watching it in 3D, that's even more apparent. But did you feel that at all when you're watching it in 3D, that some bits were like, oh, okay, that film's a little bit fake, a little bit superimposed?
Yeah, I mean, I did notice the trees. The thing is, it's like that's the problem with CG stuff. Anyway, is that I'm not watching it thinking this looks really fake. I mean, it is fake,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't know. And I'd be hard pushed these days to like really notice if something's looking really. It has to look really CG for me to be like
yeah.
that's.
On that level, yeah. I mean, the CGI is very good, but for me, there was a few scenes where I was a bit like, oh, that would be nice if that was like an actual, you know, mechanical dinosaur. Would have felt a little bit more,
Yeah, I mean,
present.
I always prefer like fucking. It's funny because I'll go into it a little bit, but I was watching the Star Wars. So I went to the start again. I went to the Secret Cinema Star Wars Empire Strikes Back thing. But before I went in, I saw the original Star Wars, and when I came out last Sunday, I watched Return of the Jedi. A few things. I'm gonna before I actually go into the Secret Cinema thing. Firstly, like I know, basically, George Lucas. I already knew this anyway, but just having not seen them in a while, and because CG's caught up and all this stuff, George Lucas has really fucked Star Wars completely. It's like when I was watching all that. I mean, the CG stuff just looks fucking terrible, like really, really bad, and it's dated horribly. I'm talking about like the first Star Wars, and then and the great thing was with Empire Strikes Back is they used an earlier cut. I don't think it's not got like the original Emperor who had the weird eyes. I think it's still Ian McDiarmid, but it might be like the '98 special edition or something. And then I'll go into that in a bit. But then I watched Return of the Jedi when I came back. And you know they've got like the extra long cantina thing, and it's got like oh my god, it was like, and it's got that song. I was just like, what the fuck? No, that's the original. Sorry, that is cantina in the first Star Wars, which I like. But in the Return of the Jedi, sorry, in Jabba the Hutt's palace, they have like an actual band coming in. And it's like a man, an alien thing singing. My god, it's just awful. Like it, I mean, it was bad at the time, but it is just, if you go back and watch it, it's really horrible. And also, when I finished Return of the Jedi, I was getting a bit sleepy. I was just watching it, but I was like, should you remember you and me used to say like, I don't know, did we say this? But I remember thinking Return of the Jedi was my favorite film as a kid until later on, and then it changed to Empire Strikes Back.
Like I think anyone born in 1993. I think because of the year we were born in, we were like, yeah, that's the best one, right? It's the best one. It is the year we were born. And when I grew up a kid, because, you know,
they've got ones in film class. Did they say that or something? They were like, we like Empire Strikes Back because it's the year we were born. Something like that.
And I think when I rewatched them as a teenager, then I realized, oh, yeah, Empire Strikes Back is so much better than the other ones. It's actually got a lot more depth and darkness to it. Whereas Return of the Jedi kind of just has Jabba the Hutt and loads of fur balls running around. But I remember as kids we loved Return of the Jedi more. Probably because of the fucking Ewoks, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I remember not being that bothered about it. To be honest, I still wasn't that bothered by it. But just as a film, I was like, oh, this is actually quite bad. This isn't a good film. And it's like, it was a lot worse than what I thought it was. I thought it was okay, but it's definitely out of that original 3. It's the worst.
Oh yeah, by far.
Exactly, by far. I always thought it was like could maybe 2, maybe 3. No,
if it was a standalone film, it would have flopped for sure.
Yeah,
because especially like you said, some of the production and stuff just looks so shit. Apart from the very beginning bit, the very beginning with the big wormhole in the sand and stuff. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that stuff was alright. Still, it was like a kind of intro. It goes on a bit long. Like looking back at it, it's like it's gone on for like half an hour or something. I swear. Like by the time it turned up, but like a lot of the script is very stilted. Like the stuff with the Ewok shit is just like, I forgot the whole thing of like where they think C-3PO is a god and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I forgot about all that, and I'm like, oh, this is really boring. Like the whole Luke and Leia conversation is awful. Like Darth Vader, like suddenly, like going, "It's too late for me now." I'm like, "This is what? Like, where's this come from?"
And I mean, you got like the thing is with the third one. By that time, the you know big merchandise machine had its claws firmly into the franchise, right? So I'm building like monsters and Ewoks and these environments that you could just milk for as much as you know, so much money through merchandise and everything. That was obviously going to happen. So I didn't think it really was going to have the originality of the first two. It's almost like the Ewoks were like, yeah, let's build a race of weird furballs so then we can sell loads of figures afterwards and make loads of money out of it. But yeah, the script didn't have nearly as much depth. And like you said, there are big U-turns with the characters that didn't really make sense the way it was going.
Yeah, it's just really weird.
Yeah.
But never mind. But yeah, the Secret Cinema thing, man, was like it was good, but it wasn't great.
What was it then? So explain
So
what it actually is.
it's all they told you was that it's The Empire Strikes Back,
Okay.
and the ticket's right like 80 quid, and then on top of that you've got to pay like your card surcharge. I got like a refund protection thing.
Right.
So overall, like it was about 180, 190 quid. Now, what happens is they send you these like emails that you sign in a like document and sorry, sign into website, and then they send you answer a few questions. They give you a character. So my character was a fucking governor of the Alliance or something, and Tess was
Right.
Tess was a galactic explorer, which is a bit cooler.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
tell
You
you,
can be
huh?
the Galactic Explorer. You can pretty much be anything. You can be
Yeah,
of
I
a
mean,
faction. You
it's
can
kind
be
of like yeah. I mean, it's just more like a general person
yeah.
character because you also had like mercenaries, creative
Okay.
council, stuff like that. So my
Okay.
guy was they say, oh, wear something really minimal. You can wear like a robe or a cloak or something. It's just black grays and whites. Um,
Yeah, but that's probably good for you. You can go, oh, cool. I've got loads of stuff like that.
yeah, that's it. I was like, well, I'm just gonna wear all black and a black robe, and I'm gonna pretend like I'm a Sith anyway. Fuck it.
Yeah.
And so just to get like the robe was like 30, 40 quid for this shit robe. I just bought off the internet. And then I got like a chef's jacket thing because it's has that like high neck and like a side button up thing, which is quite cool. So, but that was about I don't know 20 quid or something. And then yeah, they say like, oh, wear a scarf. And it's like, okay, you have to wear like a certain pattern scarf. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll wear a scarf. And then they tell you like that you've got in a roundabout way where you have to go and what time and all this. Anyway, so we turn up and all this stuff, really cool. We go in, and I don't know how much I should be saying to this, but fuck it. It's like, and it's pretty cool. Like it's like a big air hangar. But the thing is, it's all like you had to go in like lines, and then they're telling you to move forward and do this. And I was like, saying, I'm like, I'm completely confused about where I'm supposed to be going or what I'm supposed to be doing. But finally, they lead you to this like, and they keep telling you to get down, and it's like, and I've got like my right knee's been dodgy, so I'm like, I don't want to have to bend down, but everyone else is bending down. Fun. And
quick, bend over, quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, insert this into your bumhole, and and then you go in, and then there's this cool like hologram thing where it looks as if like literally it looks like there's like hologram shit in front of you, and you go up through London, so it's the London skyline. They've got fucking X-wings and Star Destroyers and shit like around. You're like, well, this is cool, and then they make it as if you go up and into space, and then
like almost like going into a theme park ride, with the theater and stuff.
Yeah,
before
it's exactly like that, and anyway, this guy just goes, yeah, by the way, if you're a galactic explorer and you've got your seeds, because you have to bring, so this is the other thing, you have to bring like stuff. So mine was like blueprints. So I bought some fucking Death Star blueprints off the internet for like 15 quid or something for products. And the thing is, they're like huge. And I was like whenever I want to get rid of this, like, I hope there's some kind of trade thing that's going to be going on, because I'm carrying this massive fucking roll of blueprints, and Tess had just this little bag of seeds. So yeah, see, they were like going, okay, so if you're a galactic explorer, I've been told you've got to find 2 farmers. So go, you're in. So you go through this little bit, and then you come out, and they've made it like a Tatooine or something. It's all like a bit deserty, and it's loads of markets. Now the thing is that all of these places are basically like food and drink, pretty much all of them. So it's like, okay, if I just walked into a shop, but they do have little areas where there's like Obi-Wan and Luke and like C-3PO or like Lando, or these farmers who are supposed to be like Luke's auntie and uncle.
Right.
But anywhere there's stuff happening like that, it's just fucking tons of people standing around.
It sounds like a small festival or a small.
It was, yeah, it was a little bit like that. And so anyway, like at one point I was like, Tess, you should go up and just like talk to this guy and get some seeds. And there was just loads of people around, and she was like, no, I don't want to. And I was like, just go up and say something like, these seeds will grow a million times faster than anything else in this entire fucking galaxy. Just make some shit up. And she was like,
Yeah.
I feel shy. So I was like, okay. She goes, you do it. And I'm like, no, because it's not my character thing. I was like, come on, let's get into it. I want to like want to get into this. So I was
Yeah.
basically walking around trying to find a mission because everyone's like going, oh, you get these missions to do. It's pretty cool, and you got to trade and swap stuff. And I'm like, no one's talking to me. Where am I supposed to find things? Like everyone was just like, where anything was just crowding around. Then finally we got a drink, and this guy was like, I need you to get a chipboard and give it to Han Solo who's hanging out the cantina. I was like, yes, thank
Finally.
God. Yeah, finally something to do. And bear in mind, this all took place over like about an hour. It did look pretty cool. But I
Yeah.
was just like, there's enough people here, but like, if you want to get anything done, there's just way too many people. So anyway, I got this mission, and I was like, okay, great. Then all of a sudden, these stormtroopers like turn up, and they're like, right, you've got to go to like the next bit. And I was like, oh, okay, must be watching the film. Great. So I don't
Yeah.
take my mission.
You
And
don't
then,
know what time the screen is, so you're kind of oblivious to what's going to happen next.
yeah, pretty much. And so
Right.
you
Okay.
go in, and then you're walking around this like it's like a prison thing. It's really weird,
Yeah.
and I wasn't really sure what we were doing. And me and Tess just had like a little like thing of macaroni cheese, and we're just like eating it, like just going, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's to a
You
point
have to
where
buy the
like,
food.
yeah, you have to buy the food and everything. It's
Right.
not cheap either. And
I bet. Sponsored the food out of
huh?
interest. Is the food all sponsored by different like restaurants in like
No, they weren't. They were like yeah, like festival stall kind of things.
yeah. Okay.
Which
Yeah.
is just nice. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so and then at this point it started to get a bit overcrowded, like to the point where we're like being sent around everywhere, and it's really hot now by this point, and I'm
Right.
just like I'm getting a bit fed up. And then all of a sudden, like they act out the first Star Wars in front of you, and this
Okay.
massive fucking X-wing comes out, and it's like on wires, and it's like swaying from side to side, and they've got a screen on as if it's going through the Death Star thing and all this stuff. It's like
Oh,
that's pretty cool. And then they did like lightsaber battles and stuff, like with Darth Vader and whatever. And then Luke got out. Then they did the bit at the end, where they get their medals and stuff. And
yeah.
then and then the doors opened, and they're like, "Come on!" And they went through, and then that's where you go in to see the film.
Okay.
And that's pretty cool. But when you're watching the film, they've got like lights and stuff that kind of happen alongside, but there's no like you're on chairs, but there's no like it's not like a cinema. There's no tilt. So basically, half of the screen was just someone's head, the back of someone's head. And
Oh, shit, really?
yes, and
They
any time
how
like
much money they'd invest a bit more in the actual like theater and the environment of sitting there.
yeah, well this is it. I might as well just I mean I've got it on Blu-ray. I was like, I might as well just watched it and on my
When
thing
they
anyway.
went like, "Hey, there you go. Now the screening happens." You just gone, "Okay, right, I'm going home now. Thanks." I
Yeah,
was,
see ya.
I was here for like the build up and the the
Yeah.
theater of it all, and then yeah, see, I'm going home. Blu-ray.
Well, they kind of acted out bits in the film as it happened as you're watching
Oh,
it, which
okay.
is pretty
Oh,
cool.
really? All
Yeah,
right.
but like every time Tess is only tiny. Like every time she moved her head, like the guys behind who were like bit like this, just give me a fuck's sake, oh fuck you, and all that. And
Typical.
I'm just like, oh, this is getting me angry. But and Tess kept staring around, giving them equals. You know what she's like, and so yeah, but it was good. And then the film finished. They're like, okay, so now we've got a club bit, and I was like, no, let's just go. And I thought it was going to be super late. And I was like,
Yeah.
it was only like it wasn't even 10:30, so it wasn't even
Okay.
really dark outside.
Yeah,
Anyway,
of
because
course.
it's not getting dark too late, and that was it. And I was like, so I still had these fucking blueprints, which are like really annoying me the whole time. I've got them here. I'm looking at them now. They're on the floor beside me.
You just like, can someone take this fucking blueprints?
Yeah, I was like, someone needs to take these from me at some point. But also, I was like, so we went in at 6. Like by the time we actually got into like where we were supposed to go, it was about 7:30, say. Um, so I was like, okay. Basically, that whole thing. Bearing in mind, I paid like money for the costume and stuff. I could have gone on
Yeah.
a holiday for this, and it lasted about 4 hours, and 2 hours of which or whatever was the film.
Film. Yeah.
I was like, not worth it. It was
It
good.
doesn't really sound worth the money. I'm quite surprised. I didn't think it used to. It's been going a few years now, right? The Secret Cinema.
Yeah,
It
but
didn't used to be
they
that
only
expensive.
no, they've only done it this big. So the last time they did something this big was Back to the Future, and that's
Oh, okay.
that was 50 quid last summer. I didn't go to that, but that was supposed to be good. But yeah, this was good, but I just don't think it was worth the money. It would
Right.
have been better if it had been like an all day thing. So you
Yeah,
turn up at
I
like
thought it
one
was
or
going to be.
something. Yeah. And you can
'Cause
hang
when
around so there's a bit more to do or something. But
yeah, when you were describing, I thought, oh, well, that sounds like a whole day out. But if it was the whole thing was actually condensed into 4 hours, of
yeah, we
course you're going to.
turned up at 6 and we were out by 10:30.
Yeah, that is a bit of a rip off. Even despite all the money they put into props and you know all the effects and stuff
Yeah. What was really annoying is that the day after, everyone at my work had been invited to go that evening.
for free.
Yeah.
Oh, great! There
I
you
was
go.
like, oh, okay.
100 quid in the drain.
Yeah. More than that. Fucking hell. Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
great. Never mind. But yeah, it was good. It was good though, man. But seeing
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back again, and especially without all the too much CG shit. So it was all like the stop motion
That's
um,
good. Yeah.
stuff and like the real the puppet monster thing at the beginning.
Yeah, and the whole like using Vaseline on the camera lens to like depict the hovercrafts and stuff without actually superimposing the
Yeah,
CG, right?
exactly. Yeah, there was just none of that extra CG, which was
Yeah, yeah, I much prefer the original version. So is that your main cinema outing in the last week or so then?
yeah, that and Jurassic World. That's it.
Okay. I
What about
saw
you then?
I saw there's two films I want to quickly go through. First, I'll talk about Poltergeist because I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but I saw this a couple of days ago. Mainly just to see if it really is as crap as people were saying. Um, is it out in the UK? I assume it's come and gone and no one really watched it.
You know what? No idea. Don't know.
Right,
Sorry.
better. But yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty shockingly bad, actually. I guess I was a little bit optimistic because I saw, as I mentioned before, a few weeks ago, Insidious 3, and I was pleasantly surprised. Feels a bit strong, but I was it kind of exceeded my expectations because they were so low for Insidious 3. And there were a few moments I thought, oh, okay, that's quite good, almost scary. So I thought it was all right. So I thought, oh, maybe, Poltergeist, maybe they'd come up with a few new tricks and, made it put a different spin on it. But it's pretty shit. It just feels like really lazily and made in quite a rush, and they basically just copied everything from the original. Tried to update it a little bit with like using iPads and things like that. Tried to modernize little bits, but it's pretty much the same story. It's like a haunted house kind of story where the family move into the house just the same as the 70s original. Family move into a house in a quiet suburb. Things start happening. The lights start flashing on and off. TV starts going on and off. We hear weird sounds. Things are moving around. Vases are getting smashed, and then the kid gets swallowed into. I can't remember the original if the girl gets swallowed into the TV itself or into a wardrobe, a cupboard. Can you remember? So I haven't seen the original in ages.
Um,
I know
no,
she ends up
you're
in.
right. She gets swallowed. There's like a big whirlwind in the room or something, and she gets
Yeah,
swallowed into the ward. No, she gets swallowed into the wardrobe, but she communicates
yeah,
through the TV.
yeah. So it's the same thing. Yeah, same thing happens in this one, but it's just a 50-inch flat screen TV rather than an old box like in the original. And yeah, she's just stuck in there going, "Mommy, mommy," and then they're trying to figure out how to get her out. And then they call in, which keeps happening, happened in Insidious, and all that whole franchise of films. They call in basically Ghostbusters. They call in these paranormal investigators to come and cleanse the house and try and get her out of the TV, right? And that happens in the beginning as in the original as well, right? They get help from external
Yeah,
people,
they
right?
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
some weird French
Um,
woman or something.
yeah, so in this they get a woman and her two helpers, and just the same as in a lot of these films, the two helpers are a bit kind of clumsy and stupid, and they provide a little bit of comedy scenes where they're just like making things worse, and she's slapping her forehead with her hand, going, "Oh God, these guys!" And then there's then they call in somebody else who's got his own um, haunting TV series. So there's a celebrity who comes in, and I've forgotten who the guy who plays it, but he's in Mad Men,
Okay.
British guy. And so he's kind of like, oh, the authority, oh, you know, this is such a extreme poltergeist that we need this guy who's got his own TV show to come in and cleanse it. And you know, this is this ghost is so strong that this could be his final one. This could finish him off. So he's all like kind of battle scarred and stuff from all the exorcisms he's done. But yeah, it's basically the same thing as the original, same plot. Everything happens exactly the same. But it really feels like a remake that they could have done 10, 15 years ago, and it would have looked exactly the same. The CGI is shit. It's really, really bad, and there's too much of it. There's nothing in there that makes you think, okay, this is made in 2015. You know, it could easily be made in fucking 2000.
Okay.
And it feels like, you know, when a kind of a carnival comes to town with a bunch of, you know, gypsy guys running all the shitty rides.
Epsom Derby.
Yeah, something like that when the derby's on or something, and these, I shouldn't say gypsies, but travelers come into town and they bring their old clunky, dangerous rides with them, and there's like this inevitable shitty, ghost train haunted house one. And then you go on it, and it's all clunky and slow. And then these puppets pop up and go, wah! And then, you know, then they pop back down, and it's supposed to scare you. And that's exactly how this feels. The scares are kind of like as cheap as a kind of cheeseburger. They're just like, suddenly the scene's all quiet, and then the boy looks into off camera, and then suddenly something just goes, wah! And then something moves, and then something drops on the floor and smashes, or when they actually go into the whole like portal thing where the girl got lost, it's just really shitty, cheap effects of these, like a weird orgy of like ghost skeletons and their hands all reaching out, going, rah, and then they've got to kind of navigate their way through this corridor of weird bodies to try and find this girl and bring her back through the portal, right? So it just feels like just a lazy remake, and Sam Rockwell is the father in it, and he just looks really bored the whole time.
Right.
So it's there's nothing inspiring in it at all. Actually, there's not even one scene where I was like, oh, okay, that almost got me a little bit freaked out. It's pretty bad, and I think it's the same director as, I think he did Monster House.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, he directed Monster House. So, you know, Monster House was an animated, you know, haunted house, kind of like cheap, scare, spooky film for kids. So it kind of felt like that, really, just cheap scares for kids, and it was pretty shit, really. So I wouldn't bother wasting any money or time on it. I'm trying to remember the actor who plays the celebrity Ghostbuster dude who comes in. Wait a second. Jared Harris.
Oh yeah, Richard Harris's son.
Yeah, so he's all right. He's actually got a bit of charisma, and you know, and he's a decent actor. I was surprised thinking, what the fuck's he doing in this? Especially as like a small part who comes in at the end to try and save the day. But yeah, he's quite good in it. He's this, like I said, a celebrity, quirky exorcist character. So he's quite cool. He's the only like interesting element to the story. But it's just a bit silly. Like there's the older teenager, angsty teenager girl who loses her iPhone and is like, oh, I want my new iPhone. And the big sister to the girl who gets swallowed up into the TV. And, you know, so she recognizes this guy from TV because her and her friends watch this stupid TV show that he's on. So when he turns up, she's all like starstruck. Oh, my God, I can't believe Carrigan Burke is in the house and exercising our house and trying to find the poltergeist. But, like, her sister's missing in the TV. And only the night before, she almost got raped, basically, by, like, a monster in the floor. And then the next day, she's all like, oh, my God, I can't believe it. This guy from TV's here. Huh? Come on, let's... can you say you're saying for me, her, and all this stuff. And you just think, you know, you should be a little bit more concerned about your sister who's just weirdly swallowed up into the TV. Your family are all kind of going out of their minds because you all almost died last night. And then you're having a little weird kind of like starstruck crush thing over this guy who's just walked in to save the day. So a lot of it just didn't make sense. So it's, I won't go on about it too much, but pretty fucking disappointing, pretty shit.
Yeah, it sounds it. I'm not really surprised, to be honest.
Don't even bother. I know. I guess like I have a bit more like optimism about remakes and think surely the wave of shitty horror remakes is finally over, and people now remaking films, you know, like The Evil Dead, that they're trying to put a bit more original spin on it, and actually like investing a bit more into the story. But no, this, like I said, this just feels like a lazy remake that could have been made 10, 15 years ago, and I don't know why the hell they've even bothered with it. I was trying to think what other horror films they could they remake now. I can't even think of any.
No, they've done them already by now,
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, apart from the Exorcism, they you know, and they made so many Exorcism films like spin-offs and reimaginings and stuff. Apart from actually remaking the original, like The Exorcism or The Exorcist or The Shining or something, but you can't remake those. So I can't think of any other like pop horror films from the 70s or 80s that they can remake now, right? They've made so many.
I literally, they will have to start going into like the real like B movie. I mean, they kind of have,
Yeah,
but
they
like,
have already. They made Last House on the Left. They remade
yeah, Hills of
Hills
Fires.
Have Eyes. But
Yeah,
didn't they even remake I Spit on Your Grave?
yeah,
So
pretty sure they did. Yeah,
yeah, they pretty much remade everything.
yeah, it's a shame, really, but
Yeah.
yeah, Poltergeist was the big one, but it's just
Yeah.
the original was all right. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean, the original wasn't even amazing anyway in the first place.
no,
Um,
it was all
but
right.
it's the original haunted house kind of film, isn't it? Um, but yeah, the whole like, yeah, oh, it's building a burial ground and stuff. It all comes out. The main thing that I just kept getting reminded of is the Simpsons spoof. Remember, they've spoofed it so many times in the Simpsons of like, oh, the walls are bleeding and stuff, and then that
Yeah, it destroys itself.
yeah, it destroys, swallows itself up, and then Homer like ties a rope around himself in another episode and jumps into this weird other dimension to try and save Bart. Remember, um, and then they end up kind of in 3D. So there's so many spoofs and parodies of Poltergeist that, they kind of clouded my memory of the original. That it's just yeah, I'd rather have watched the Simpsons spoof than watch this.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's a
much.
shame. It's a shame as
Yeah.
well. Sam Rockwell just hasn't done anything really any good now.
He looked extremely bored in this. He looked embarrassed to be in it,
Yeah,
especially because there's so much like acting to off-camera CGI ghosts or like beings or paranormal vortexes that it just looked like halfway through. You know, he'd shot about 3 or 4 of those. Okay, now react to something off camera and make it up in your head. That he just looked absolutely frustrated and bored with it. Yeah, I don't know why he did it either.
shit, money. That's why probably throwing money in.
We'll go get paid, yeah. But yeah, and then the other thing I saw this week was Going Clear. Have you seen it, the Scientology documentary?
No, I think I've heard little bits about it. So, isn't it? They were gonna kill the guy or something like that. They wanted
Oh
to
man,
stuff.
well, just quickly, I'll say that I watched 2 documentaries this week. I watched The Jinx after you recommended
Oh
it.
man,
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. That's the 6-part documentary.
yeah.
Yeah, on what's the guy's name again?
I can't remember offhand. I did know.
Robert Durst, the
That's it.
multi-millionaire heir to a huge kind of one of the biggest New York tycoon property developer families, and then he's pretty much definitely killed at least 2 or 3 people. And then yeah, this is HBO mini series about the trials and the life of his and how he's dodged these murder charges. But I thought it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. And yeah, like you said, it's really interesting as well how this I'm going to lead on to Going Clear, but how a documentary can affect current affairs, basically. So with the Jinx, the documentary is now going to be evidence, isn't it, in a new trial for Robert Durst for murder,
Yeah, well,
right?
he's already been locked up for some minor
Yeah.
offence in another state to do with his car or driving or something like that. So they want.
Well, he was found. Yeah, he was arrested again after, you know, he was arrested the day before the last episode aired in the States.
Yeah. Well, people are saying that
incredible.
might be part of it, so that he didn't have to go, so that he had to deal with that charge before he could go to another state to actually deal with the murder charge. I don't know how it works in America.
It may well have been constructed like this because now he is in another state. He was arrested in New Orleans, I think. So he can't be tried in California for the murder of Susan, whatever her name was, because he's stuck on a different charge in New Orleans. And there's a lot, apparently, like that kind of cross-state thing. There's a lot of red tape, and it's really complicated to get one guy from one state to another to be charged on something else. So you never know. But I mean, it was amazing that he was arrested the day before the final episode aired, because in the final episode there was that big reveal where he didn't realize his mic was on, and he almost confessed to it. Really, it was pretty much the final nail on the coffin. And they're using that scene as major evidence, right? So now the documentary makers are not allowed to talk to press about the film anymore because it's all evidence. So now people are saying to the documentary makers, how long did you have that recording, and why did you that's evidence that you withheld on a murder charge?
Yeah, because they've been filming it over the course of like a couple of years or something like that. But the thing what they've yeah, so what they said is that obviously they didn't get to go through all the footage until the time, but they're still like, and quite rightly so. I guarantee you, absolutely guarantee you, that being a filmmaker of sorts myself, is that when the sound man, bearing in mind, if they're recording the sound and he's still got his mic on, then if the sound man is just near, he'd be able to hear what's happening anyway. That the mic is still on. But after, but whatever would have happened once he would have taken his mic off and given it to the sound man after he'd gone to the toilet, then and he would have known he was still rolling. So it's not as if like, you know, I don't know when it happened timeline wise, but yeah, they're quite right to be a bit pissed off because
they said it was a year. You know, they said it was a year, a full year, until they found, oh right, it was still running in the toilet when he started mumbling to himself about what he did.
I guarantee you they would have looked that evening. That next day they would have looked through.
And they sat on it for a long time, and especially because he'd done it before in the previous episode, he'd start mumbling, and then he said, "Oh, you realise your mic's still hot." So they couldn't have sat on that for a whole year.
No,
but
so
you know,
they already knew that he talks to himself. When
he's definitely man. But the only thing is, by that time they finally got that interview, the momentum would have completely wound down to like first gear. Like, well, you know, the momentum of the documentary would have almost as good as stopped, because you know they had to wait so long for that final interview, didn't they? And the guy was making other films at the time, so maybe that they recorded it and they were like, okay, let's put that in the bank, let's go back to it and see if see if it's worth adding into this documentary later. But you know, it's quite interesting that now they're being accused of withholding evidence, and that evidence is key into the murder trial for this guy. And did you read that when he was arrested, he was found with like a rubber mask and like $30,000 in his car and all this stuff?
Wasn't that the first time he was arrested when he was
the first time he was arrested? Yeah, first time arrested, he had a wig and stuff and a different disguise because he was like off and on dressing himself up as a woman. When the first time he was arrested, he stole a sandwich, right?
Yeah.
But he had $100 in his pocket and like 10, 20 grand in his car. But the second time he got arrested was because the documentary was already airing. 5 episodes had been out on HBO. So people were starting to recognize him again on the streets because of it. And then they found him the day before the finale went out. They arrested him in New Orleans for like, it was something like being like drunk driving or something. But he had like a rubber mask in the car, as well as 2 guns. That was it. Yeah, he had 2 guns on him and he had a load of cash. So he was on the lam again. He was running away. But he's such a fucking senile, crazy, evil old man that he probably wants to get caught. You know, why would you steal a sandwich when you're on the run from the law?
Yeah, exactly. He wants it. That's the whole reason why he's done the documentary in the first place.
Yeah, he volunteered to do the interviews, right? Yeah, so that was really interesting. So like leading on, because you talked about that a lot a few weeks ago, to Going Clear. Again, this is a documentary. So this Going Clear is made by the same director as what else did he do? He did, I think, is the Alex Gibney. So he's a documentary maker, and you know people are calling him one of the most influential documentary makers of our time, because he's already won an Academy Award for, is it Taxi to Dark Places or something?
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that.
Taxi to the Dark Side, about the US troops and the laws on torture in the Middle East. So he won a documentary. He won the Oscar in 2007 for that. He also made the Enron documentary in 2005.
Yeah,
Enron,
that was good.
So I mean, this guy is, you know, he's obviously a very important documentary maker at the moment, and basically what he's done is he's exposed Scientology for what it is, and it's causing a massive stir in America. It's not out in the UK yet. They're trying to sign the Church of Scientology are trying to ban it in the UK, so it still hasn't got a distribution. Luckily, I managed to see it. But the film, it all kind of hinges on 4 or 5 key members of the Scientologist church who have left, including Paul Haggis, the director.
Oh, really?
Who have left the church and were involved in the church for 15 to 20 years. And then they're basically confessing about exactly what the hell happens in it. So the documentary is really, really good, man. I really want you to try and get hold of it and watch it as soon as possible. It goes in real great detail and depth of about Ron L. Hubbard, the inventor and founder of Scientology, and just how much of a fucking weirdo, crazy, neurotic, obsessive person he was. And it charts the kind of the origin and the rise of Scientology in his head. So he came up with this whole Dianetics thing, where it was basically like, I won't go into too much detail, but it talks about how he came up with this philosophy of the mind being, and released this book. So he was a pulp sci-fi writer. So he's actually got Guinness Book World Record of being the
is it the most published or something?
Yeah. So he wrote all these pulpy sci-fi novels in the 70s or something, all about Captain Jimmy Faceache flying to the moon and having sex with aliens and discovering a whole new race and then having galactic battles and stuff. And he was writing this stuff when he was really young. So he's writing this in, I think, the 50s and 60s even. And then he wrote a book about Dianetics, and it's basically the idea of your brain being in 2 halves. That one part of the brain is the fully functioning, well-oiled machine that can get anything done, and the other part of the brain is where your neurosis and your kind of nerves and your paranoia and stuff stem from, and they're the only things, and your anxieties, the things that stop the other part of your brain working efficiently. So I think that he actually surprised himself that so many people bought this book, maybe at a time that people were looking for some new philosophy in the
new
way
age stuff.
Yeah, and then from that he figured, okay, the only way to make serious money is to start a religion, because religions are not taxable. Okay, so that was the whole point of Scientology. So then he made Scientology, and then the whole idea is that when you first become a member of Scientology, you have to go through this kind of weird cleansing initiation, where you basically go through a part lie detector test. So you get hooked up to these weird electrodes, and he does this test. That you talk about your experiences, your feelings, your secrets and stuff, and then this lie detector thing this meter will start flicking if you're telling the truth or you're thinking about something too deeply or whatever.
Yeah.
So what happens is that you keep having to do these tests, and the more you do these tests, the more you go clear, which is where the title comes from. That you reach these stages that you keep going up and up and up, and you finally become clear. That you're clear of all those anxieties and all those neuroses in your brain, because you've done so many of these tests, and these tests have actually cleared you, right? Because you've confessed all your sins, and you've talked about all the things that make you nervous and things that make you sad, and they go through past lives. So it's like, oh, you used to be a naval commander or whatever, or you used to be working on a cotton farm or whatever the hell, and you actually cleanse your former lives as well. So when you're clear, you're completely clean of all your anxieties and everything, that your brain can work in the perfect functioning way. The thing is with this is that inevitably, when you get being tested really regularly as well, you end up confessing your darkest secrets, right? So you end up confessing anything that's given you any desires, anything that's given you any anxiety in the past, anything that and he thinks that you can heal yourself by doing this. He thinks that like someone in a car accident, they're only suffering from injuries from a car accident because their brain knows they were in a car accident. If their brain starts to think that it wasn't in a car accident, you remove that accident, then the body will heal itself. And he claims to have healed himself after he went to war, but it was all bullshit. And there's loads of facts and loads of documents that say otherwise, that he wasn't even injured in war. So he's bullshitting his way into building a religion. And it's crazy, man. It talks about how he was when he was first married. he was pretty much holding his wife hostage, or against her will, because she wanted to leave him. And then he took their baby away for like a few weeks or something. She was going hysterical because he stole their baby. And then he'd call her up and say, the baby's dead. And she'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he'd say, yeah, I killed the baby and I chopped it into little bits and now it's dead. And then hang up. And then, yeah, like tormenting her. And then she'd be like, what the fuck's going on? And then he'd call back later and go, only joking. No, the baby's fine. But, so just like, just psychologically damaging his wife. And that's pretty much the principle of what he used to all these millions and millions of people, psychologically kind of bullying people. So, the whole like John Travolta thing and Tom Cruise thing comes up a lot. And John Travolta, what they basically imply is that they've got so much juice on John Travolta because he's had to do these regular tests, these regular cleansing tests, that they've got, and they write it all down. They document everything. Okay, so they've got like volumes and volumes of documents on John Travolta alone that they can pretty much blackmail him. That if he was to come out against the church, they've got so much dirt on him that they can destroy him, right? And
imagine, well, both of which who are gay. So
yeah, the whole thing is homosexual allegations, right? So I mean, that's huge, especially at that time in Hollywood. Now maybe it's starting to change, but 20 years ago, you couldn't come out in Hollywood. So it hinges on that. And the big kind of revelation was when in 1993 that the Scientologist church was passed by the IRS as a religion, so it's not taxable. So apparently, if the IRS decided that the Scientology was not a religion, but was in fact a cult or a business, then they would owe billions in tax, and that would have actually obliterated the church. On that year, the church would have gone, right? But because their influence at that time and the membership they had, and probably the influence they had in the IRS, they passed, and it was passed as a religion, so they didn't have to they don't pay any tax.
Yeah.
So they so much money. They're worth billions and billions because they take money from their members, because their members get kind of guilt tripped into giving them money every year, not just membership but donations and stuff. And the church, they just build more and more churches around the world, and more kind of like headquarters and offices and stuff. So it just grows and grows. And it talks about the figures of how much money that church is worth, and it's pretty astronomical. It's incredible. But the real revelations are from these people who left the church, talking about their experiences in the church. And it's really funny because they're all so ashamed. Paul Haggis is so ashamed of being in the church for that long. And he says, I can't believe, the things I had to do. And some of the high up members talk about all the bullying and the harassment that happened in the church, to the point that it almost sounds like a concentration camp, that the high members would actually, if they had any thoughts or any doubt about the church at all, they'd be chucked into this kind of camp, and they'd be tortured and beaten up and literally abused in this weird little camp for like up to a few years, and until they're so institutionalized that they come out and all they believe, they think, how can I be treated so badly by this church? Surely I can't be right. It can't be wrong what they're doing. It must be right because I can't deserve this. So they get just rewired into believing so heavily that the church is doing the right thing. It's just complete psychological manipulation and bullying. And then they talk about, remember that documentary that was on Panorama?
Yeah, I never actually watched it, but I remember when it was on.
Yeah, it's amazing. They talk about that as well. So one of the main instigators in that documentary is actually one of the guys who now is leading, who has left the church, and he was one of the highest members in the church. And now he's leading this big campaign against it. So he was one of the guys in that documentary. That documentary was huge in the UK, maybe you think 5 or 6 years ago, when Panorama tried to kind of unravel, and expose the church, and it got harassed, didn't it, by the church members. And one of the members doing the harassing to Panorama, the TV show, was one of these people who have now left the church. So he was a really big key figure in the church, and now he's the one spilling all the beans. So now Scientology are turning against him, trying to slander against him, trying to expose everything they've got on him. So it's really, it's quite interesting. And Scientology have this whole philosophy that if anyone turns against the church, then we'll go at you. That it's open, open for anything. So all these guys, all these guys, Paul Haggis and all these guys who have come out against the church are getting harassed, are getting abused online. People are on their, turning up at their door, like filming them 24/7 under surveillance and stuff. It's incredible, the lengths the church will go to try and stop any bad press about it. So now, you know, Louis Theroux has also made a documentary about Scientology in a similar fashion, like exposing a lot of the really horrible negative points about it.
Right.
So then, you know, the church came out and said, well, we're going to make a documentary on you. So the Scientology are actually making a documentary about Louis Theroux personally to
so weird.
To sabotage him. Yeah. So that's their reaction. Man, I was reading about it for hours after I watched the film. You know, it really captivated me, and I was really trying to dig deep about all these like situations. Scientology have just turned like that, and they do on all these people. So they've made a documentary about Louis Theroux, which they're going to try and release around the same time that Louis Theroux releases his documentary about Scientology, and they just damn anyone who criticizes it. And it's really like interesting. It kind of explains the whole rise of Tom Cruise, that he became the central figure, the kind of the big ambassador of Scientology, and how he got to that point, and how they even tried to hand feed him girlfriends. You know, they'd even strategically pick people to be his new girlfriend, and they'd say to the girl, they'd give the girl a makeover and say, "You're going to be Tom Cruise's next girlfriend," in the press and everything. So fucked up. And then they talk about Ron Hubbard, how he was like he was just so kind of corrupt, and that he actually made up this whole organization of Scientologists going to the sea, and he actually bought these ships that they go off, and he'd say to these people, these Scientologists, these church members, "Oh, we're exploring to try and find forgotten and lost civilizations like Atlantis," you know, because what he's all about, exploring and finding these old civilizations and learning from them. But what he was really doing is he's avoiding the tax man. So he was actually running away from the tax man for like 5 years or something on a boat. But he had manipulated people to come and work on that boat, literally like scrubbing the boat until their fingers bled and stuff. So he could just run away from the tax, so he didn't have to live on land for years and years before they announced that it was tax-free. So man, it is incredible, but the stir it's caused is, you know, it's really opened up a lot about Scientology, and it's really enlightening, and it's really fascinating. And yeah, I'd really recommend anybody to watch it.
Yeah,
very well made, really well constructed documentary, really well paced, really engaging, really candid, you know, thorough interviews as well. And it's, you know, it just tried to be objective. It's not just let's, you know, sabotage this church at all. I don't think it has that kind of agenda. It's just trying to finally open up a jar, open the lid on what it's really like. And fuck, man, it's really interesting.
I have to check it out. Did I ever tell you when I went to the I got a tour around the Scientology HQ in London?
Yeah, I remember you said it.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. I mean, maybe I'll save it for another time. I'm gonna have to end the podcast now, I'm afraid, because we've got people coming over, and I'm sitting around in my pajamas and in a mess, and I'm getting evils from Tess.
Okay, that's my recommendation though. If you watch Going Clear, for anybody to, you know, try and get hold of it, man, it's definitely the best film I've seen in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, what's out this week that could potentially be watched? I don't think I'm gonna have a chance. Oh, I'm in Portugal next week anyway.
I really want to see Inside Out. I think it's out in the UK yet. It's not out here for another month or so, but the new Pixar film looks really good. Inside.
Well, I might be able
to
see that. Actually, I don't know, because I'm not at work. Okay. Well, yeah. Let's we'll figure something.
Terminator is the big one in the next couple of weeks. The next kind of blockbuster release.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Terminator Genisys.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably gonna see that. Okay. Well, that's it. You can go to the site, which is thewildboar.com. You can listen to our other podcast, which is called On the Game, which I do with Ben. We'll be doing a massive E3 thing. We'll be recording that tomorrow, but these two will probably be coming out concurrently at the same time, whatever. So have a listen to that if you want to check out, if you want to know what happened at E3 this week. You can follow us at Twitter, at the Wild Boar UK, or you can email us thewildboartv@gmail.com. So yeah, that's it for today. We'll come back and we'll try and do a longer one and go into things more in depth next time. So yeah, that's it. Cool. Bye.
Yes, bye.